So remember that compound inequalities are more than one. When we solve these, they're just like when we solve equations, but there are two of them. And then there are two different types, or and. Or inequalities have a tendency to graph apart. So that means, and for our purposes, they shouldn't be touching each other. They should be going in opposite directions. So if we had this example right here, x is less than or equal to -2, there would be a closed circle at -2, going to the left. X is greater than 3 would be an open circle, going to the right. Left. And then for our interval notation, we're reading this left to right. So this starts, it goes off the graph, keeps going to the left. So it starts at -infinity. And then as I keep reading left to right, it stops at -2. This is a closed circle, so this is a square bracket. Or it starts again at +3. So it's going to be parentheses because it's open. And then it keeps going to the right for the sentence. And we're going to do number 1. So for number 1, remember that these you're solving, but solving them separately. You're not doing the same thing to both. So for this first one, how would we solve this? How would we get x by itself?
Add 4.
Add 4 on both sides. We have x is less than -3. And then how would we solve the other side? Divide both sides. We have x is greater than or equal to 6. And between both of those, we need an or. So we can draw that. X is less than -3 would be an open circle at -3, going to the left. X is greater than or equal to 6 would be a closed circle at 6, going to the right. And when we start writing this interval notation, where would this start? Where does this keep going to? It keeps going to the left. -infinity, and that would be a parenthesis. -infinity to what? -3, parenthesis or bracket? Parentheses. And then or, it starts at 6. Is that a parenthesis or a bracket? Bracket. And then to infinity. Do we have any questions on how we solved that, how we graphed it, how we got that final answer?
So just
Do that one more time.
just
So solve both of these for x or whatever the variable is, and then graph both of those answers. Anyone still need this? We're going to skip down to number 5. For the one on the left, how would we solve this? Contribute. We could also divide both sides by -3. We talked about that the first time we did this. I'm not going to do that now, but if you guys want to see that, let me know. So this would be -6x minus 3 is less than -15. Then what? Add 3 to both sides. -6x is less than -12. And Then what? Divide by -6. And with your inequalities, when you divide by a negative, you have to change the direction of the sign. So this is now x is greater than +2. So we can go ahead and graph that on our number line. That would be an open circle at 2 going to the right. For our other inequality, how would we solve that? How would we get x by itself? We have negative x is greater than or equal to 4. And then divide both sides by -1. So x is now, we have to change our direction of our sign. So x is now less than or equal to -4. I'm going to make that up here. And we need an or in between those two answers. And we can graph x is less than or equal to -4. So that would be a closed circle to the left. How would we write this interval notation? How would we write this interval notation? What would we start with? So that one wouldn't have a bracket. And then the next number was the -4. Or, how would we finish this? 2 with parenthesis or bracket? 2 infinity. Do we have any questions on that one? Before we flip to the next page, are there any others on this page that we want to see or go over? On to the next page. Remember that and or inequalities are opposites. So if or inequalities graph apart and inequalities graph together, they usually face each other. So if we have this example, x is less than -6, so I'm going to draw these as two separate things and then make it a combined thing. X is greater than or equal to -6 would be a closed circle going to the right. X is less than or equal to 1 would be a closed circle going to the left. And we're looking for where those two lines overlap. So that would be from -6 to +1 with just a line connecting them. So when we look at our interval notation, we're really just looking at this piece, not the entirety. So where would this start? Where would this end? If we're looking at just this, I'm going to jump out of pink. Which one? Where does this start? Would it be a bracket or a parenthesis? Bracket. And where does this end? 1. And would that be a parenthesis or a bracket? But when we have and inequalities, I'm going to use the example and put that here. We don't write them as two separate things. We write them as one condensed inequality, so kind of like our set builder notation. So this would be -6 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 1. So anytime we write our answer, that is going to be the format it's in. And then we're going to do a couple of these. For number 6, our goal is to still get x by itself, but in this case, whatever we do it to everything. So how would we get x by itself here? Subtract 4. And we're going to do that in the middle and the outsides. So we have -2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 5. So when we draw that on our number line, we're going to have a closed circle at -2, an open circle at 5, and a line connecting them. And then how would we write our interval notation? Where would this start? Where would this end? -2, would there be a parenthesis or a bracket? Bracket at -2. And 5 would have a parenthesis or a bracket. -2 with a bracket to 5 with a parenthesis. Do we have any questions on that? Do one more on this page, number 10 at the bottom. Does anyone still need this? For number 10, how would we start solving this? Distribute. In this case, you can also divide everything by 2 as well. We talked about that when we first did these examples, but I'm not going to do that here unless you want to see that. So this would be 2x minus 12 is less than or equal to 4. Then what? Add 12 on both sides, I guess. Or on all sides, I should say. So add 12 in the middle, add 12 to the two numbers on the outsides. So then we have 10 is less than 2x, which is less than or equal to 16. And then our last step. Divide everything by 2. We have 5 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 8. So that would be an open circle at 5, a closed circle at 8, and a line connecting them. How would we write this interval notation? Parentheses. Brackets. Mm-hmm. Do we have any questions on that one? Are there any others on this page that you want to see or go over? if not, for the rest of class, you have this time to practice. So know that you have those examples to go back to and refer to. Some of you started practicing on Friday. Maybe go back, double check your answers, double check your work. If you didn't, or you got new paper today, go back and retry some of those. Make sure you're good with the ands and the ors. Let me know if you have any questions or want me to check anything.